So are we.
Ready?
Whenever you're set.
Oh, great. Okay. So to introduce myself again, my name is Becca, and today I'm going to talk to you about being a recent transplant to the Boston area and experiencing my first East Coast or Northeast, specifically winter. So just as a bit of background, I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, and then I moved to Southern California for college. And then I graduated, moved over to Washington, D.C. for a few years, and then just about 2 months ago, moved here to Boston. And when most people hear this, they sort of, I assume with the nicest of intentions, say things like, are you crazy? You should reverse that trajectory, go back to warmer climates. So, but it's been a good learning experience so far. And the three things that I want to talk about that I've learned so far living on the East Coast through a very brutal winter. Well, first, it's really serious business. So coming from a state in which winter is really 50 to 70 degrees, sometimes it rains, and you go back to the beach in February. I was just not prepared for a polar vortex and stepping off the sidewalk into that feet of slush that you experience, and snow days that you still have to go to work. So that was number one. Number two is that I think living through a Northeast winter gives you a whole nother appreciation for outerwear. So I didn't really realize that scarves weren't just decorative. I thought they were just, an accessory, but actually they're incredibly functional. And boots aren't just fashionable, they are for traversing these snowy roads that we all experience, and layers have just become my best friend. So I just didn't realize that you had to have a whole different wardrobe for every season in the Northeast. And third, here's where you could flip over your handouts, because I think that daring to hope that spring is actually coming is really a risky proposition. So I definitely fell for this when early March, even late February, there were these beautiful days, and I thought to myself, oh, spring is finally here. But no, spring was not here. Spring might be here today, but I got my hopes up way too soon, and I think this printout is really accurate about how we all perceive winter. So to conclude, what I think is really key to surviving an East Coast winter is preparation and a deep sense of cynicism. So that's it.
All right, thank you. Oh, it's a lousy chair, right?
Well, it's okay.
Okay.
I'll be short.
All right.
Okay.
So where were you sitting? So we're over here. So you get to go first.
So I think that you picked a topic that was really relatable to everyone that's here. So I think that was one of your strong suits, that when you were saying, like, your jokes, I laughed too, because I had experienced the same thing. So I think finding common ground between you and also who you're presenting to is a strong point of yours.
Okay. Having a very positive face, smiling, which is really important, I think.
I thought you had great eye contact the entire time. You never really looked down. You were definitely looking at somebody the entire time, so it was good.
I thought you had a very strong voice presence. You were very articulate, and you sort of captured the audience with your voice.
So I agree with all of them. You had a very personable topic, and I think we could all relate to it. So I think that we were all pulled into your presentation, and I think everyone was laughing with you about some of the experiences that you had in our winters. It was good.
I think you chose a good topic that you came across as very knowledgeable and having great experience, and I agree with what everyone said about like the presence and enthusiasm and being funny.
Some additional things that I'll add, you have this great smile. So when I think about where all of your energy is coming from as a presenter, it's from like here up. Your voice, the inflection was, forever changing, and it kind of served to let us know where you were going with the story, when a joke was coming. So it was almost theatrical in the way that you used your voice, and it was wonderful. In addition to that, then you have this great smile that as soon as someone's able to smile at that, we're all like, ooh, okay, we can relax, because it just evokes this sense of confidence. And you started the presentation off with this posture that was just, your shoulders are back, your chin was up, and you were looking around the room and actually making eye contact right out of the gate. So again, it's one of those subtle devices you can use that helps us relax just ever so slightly as you get started. So we've heard a lot about your voice and word choice. You use really smart words. And when I say smart words, I don't mean from an intelligence standpoint or from a vocabulary, but it's more about your ability to take what could be a rather harsh presentation and spin it so you're like that, I'm the half full type of person versus the glass is half empty kind of person. So I've had very similar presentations here where people just, they're like Debbie Downer, they bring the mood down. You kind of elevated it, you were very truthful, you almost evoked a sense of pride in who we are as New Englanders. So it's smart, because when I think about some of the data that we need to present in the workplace, it's very easy for us to give that negative spin. It's just as easy to get creative and kind of look for, how do I say this bad news in a way that's not too damaging? And I think you have an art for that. I loved the structure of your presentation. You really stuck true to the first, second, third. So again, when we can try to use that type of structure in a presentation, it helps us as adult learners know where we are. So our attention spans tend to decrease as we get older, particularly when we're at work and we're thinking about all that other stuff I should be doing right now. So when we know where we are and that the end is coming, you tend to get better behaved audience members. Great humor. I think the scarves comment was just hilarious. And so your enunciation, when you speak, you really pay attention to those final sounds of some of your words. So at times your pacing was rather fast, but you save yourself because you enunciate so well. It's easy to hear every word. And again, that level of enunciation combined with the posture and the shoulders back and that eye contact just continues to make us feel you're someone that we need to pay attention to. Clearly, you're confident enough in your delivery that it's as though you're saying to us, I have an important message, so listen to me, and we will. And those are my positives. So do you want to hear things to work on?
I love feedback.
Does anybody have anything that kind of jumped out?
One thing, I thought you had a really good presence and you were using your hands well and making great eye contact, and I think it would have been a little bit stronger if you moved around a little bit, because you just stood in the one place. But otherwise.
Great. Anybody else?
So I agree with that with your hands, that you had really great, body language and presence and very enthusiastic, and you were animated and using your hands, but then when you brought them down to your legs, you slapped them several times. But I think it's like one of those things that you don't know, because you have like, you're up there and you have all this energy and you don't know what to do with it. So you might move your hands in a direction that you shouldn't, or try to control.
Yeah.
Probably didn't even know you were doing it.
No idea. It's really funny.
Anybody else? So the thing with the hands and the movement, and my feedback kind of ties those together as well. So earlier I said like all your energy was from here up, and your arms definitely were moving at times, which was great, but more often than not you went to that like place, and it was just like an awkward, your hands are hanging there, and it was almost like they were hanging like this.
Yeah.
So suddenly it's like this great person from here up, and from the neck down, there wasn't a lot of energy to balance it. And what it also did is it revealed youth. And that's what you don't want. So I started saying, I wonder how old she is. That's the exact message or mindset that you want people to get into in your audience. You don't ever want them to question how old you are or how long you've been working here, because this is an industry in which it's all about evidence-based and it's about hierarchy of learning and position and experience. So don't let someone discount you too quickly, because you look young. And it's not that you don't look young. You do, but in a very nice, like, professional way. That just, like, you don't look like you're 21 years old is what I'm trying to say. Because there are some girls that come through here, and literally I refer to them as girls, not women. And there's no worse critic in the workplace against women than a woman in her 40s. We're brutal. So we will discount someone who's 21, 25. As soon as they go into the cute mode, we write them off. And you don't do that. So what you need to figure out is, what do you have to do from your shoulders down to balance that and to really jump out as someone who needs to be, you're a force to be reckoned with. And I agree with you. I think moving around a little bit, coming up with a better position for your hands. I'll talk about that in a moment. And even just like the dress. One of the things that I'll encourage you to do when you're making an important presentation is to stay away from casual clothing, particularly if you're younger in life, and think about heels as a way to do a lot of great things. If you're in heels for a presentation, it forces better body alignment and posturing. It gets rid of some of the bad things that we as women do as presenters, which if it happens, I'll show you. But it also just kind of adds to that whole level of formality when you're in front of the audience. And you want people to actually say, how old is that person? And I wonder how experienced he or she is. So we need to come up with a strategy for how to do that with you. The other thing, your eye contact was great, but my recommendation would be your eye contact tended to bounce from left of the room to the right of the room, and from that side back over to that one, so it caused a lot of like this going on. So when you think about eye contact, imagine that it's like a sprinkler head on a golf course. And what you want to do is to start over like by Carrie and slowly start to move around the room. So maybe it's not every person, in order. So you might start over with Carrie, and then you jump over here, and you're speaking with Denise, and then we jump over, and maybe you look at Laura, make it all the way up to Cheryl, and then maybe come back, kind of hitting different people. So that's just a smoother way of doing it. Eye contact with you is really good, but you also, when you think, you're looking up.
Yeah.
And that was in the first 30 seconds in particular. And so for you, I think just starting out of the gate is not your weak spot. That's where you're probably most vulnerable, and that's where your nerves are getting in your way. So I saw that because you were looking up and over our heads, and you were kind of smiling, and then you look at someone quickly, but then your eyes would go right back up. And the other thing that you did at that exact moment, which revealed that's where your nerves were, you started to go into this detail dive. So when you started talking about all the places that you lived, that's where, as a presenter, you need to ask yourself, do they really need to know all of these details? Probably not. It would have been enough to say, you left San Francisco and now you're here. And we would have gotten the message. We didn't need to know all of those extra details along the way. So think about that as you're preparing. And that's all I have. So it's more about the detail dives. And for you, I think it's body language.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
You're welcome.